Okay, now let's talk about section 1.2 types of data. So now let's recall a couple of slides before when we define variable. So a variable is a characteristic or attribute that can assume different values. So we also define it as something that we're interested that can vary. So that's the definition for variable. And data are values or measurements or observations that the variable can assume. So we also know that a collection of data values forms a data set, and each value in the data set is called a datum or a data value. So now let's, based on this review, let's do a practice problem. So which of the following is a variable? So now let's look at the first one. The freezing temperature of water, is that a variable? So for this one, the answer is no, it is not a variable because the freezing temperature of water is set. So nothing can change. So it doesn't satisfy that something of interest that can vary. So it is not. Age in years, it is a variable because we can have 20 years old, 18, 21, 25, 30, 40. So something of interest that can vary. So it is a variable. And duration of a certain movie. Let's say Avengers Endgame. So if it's a certain movie, then the length of the movie, the duration is set already. So cannot vary, not a variable. Smoker, yes or no. So the vary between yes or no is similar to gender, male or female. So this is a variable. And amount of consumption varies. That something that we're interested. Yes. Number of hours in a day, which is equals 24, cannot vary, so not a variable. Blood pressure, yes. Color, yes. So this is how to distinguish whether the following is a variable. And then now let's look at some further information for variable. So we know variable, we defined it already. Then furthermore, we're gonna distinguish variable into two aspects. So one, we call it a qualitative variable, and another one we call it quantitative variable. So then now let's look at what is a qualitative variable. So qualitative variable are variables that have distinct categories according to some characteristic or attribute. Usually qualitative variable, we say non-numerically valued variable. A quick example that's going to be gender. So gender, we have male, female, and course letter grade A, B, C, D, E, F. Those are all non-numerical valued. Then we call those qualitative variable. And another important type of variable is quantitative variable. So what is quantitative variable? Quantitative variable, indifferent to this qualitative one, are variables that can be counted or measured. So we say those are numerically valid variable. So some quick example would be body weight. Those are numbers. And the income, numbers, exam score, numbers, and GPA, numbers. So numerical valued variable. So now we discuss two different types of variables. So furthermore, for qualitative variable, we can further distinguish those two, nominal variable and ordinal variable. So what is nominal variable? So nominal variable going to be whose categories have no natural ordering. For example, gender, we cannot order male, female. So gender belongs to nominal variable. And ordinal variable, so that is whose categories have natural ordering. Quick example, course letter grade. So we can order A, B, C, D, and F naturally. Then we call those ordinal variable. So now that we know for qualitative variable, we have nominal and ordinal. And then for quantitative, we're further going to distinguish those into discrete variable and continuous variable. So for discrete variable, that is assumed values can be counted. And for continuous variable, based on the name, possible values from some interval infinite cannot be counted. So now let's look at the discrete variable example. Number of cars per household. You can have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So on. Those are all integers, can be counted, but you don't have 2.35 cars. That is impossible. So discrete variable. And now let's look at the example for continuous variable. Time finish drinking a bottle of water. So it could be any number between an interval. You cannot really count it as integer. So we call those continuous variable. Then more easily, we can see this under this structure. So we know what is variable. So variables distinguish into two. So qualitative and quantitative. So qualitative is non-numerical and quantitative is numerical value. And for qualitative, we have further distinguish into nominal and ordinal. For quantitative, we have discrete and continuous. Now let's look at this practice. Again, the same one. The freezing temperature of water. No. Age in years. Yes. So when it is a variable, then we look at whether it is qualitative or quantitative. In years, so it is quantitative. When it is quantitative, we further look at whether it is discrete or continuous. So in years means 20, 21, 23, 24, all integers. So we treat this as discrete. And then for duration of a certain movie, no. Smoker, yes or no. So it is a variable. Then whether it is qualitative or quantitative. So qualitative. And then further look at whether it is nominal or ordinal. So yes or no, no order, no natural ordering. So we say this is nominal. And then let's look at smoker amount of consumption, still variable. So this is going to be qualitative, quantitative. And continuous or discrete. So this based on what value you got. So if you're looking at how many packs, it could be discrete. And then if you look at just per cigarette, then it could be continuous. So we're gonna say either one is okay for this one. Based on value or unit. The number of hours in the day, no. Blood pressure, yes. So quantitative. is numerical valued, and then this is going to be continuous. And then color, yes. Qualitative. Nominal. No specific order. Okay, so that's a practice problem for this variables, distinguish variables. And then for data, data are actually values of a variable. So we can have this example quickly. So gender, the value could be male, female, and then each one we call it data value or datum. And then for the quantitative one, for example, exam scores, we're gonna have 99, 85, 71. Those are the data. And then for each specific one, we call it data value or datum. And then for discrete, integer, and then for continuous, more of values with decimals. So and the entire thing we call it data set. So now we finish section 1.2, and then let's look at section 1.3, design of experiments. So we're going to classifying the statistical studies into observational study or a design experiment. So observational study can review association, only association, that also observing data already exist. And then for the design experiment, can help establish causation. So the data do not exist until someone does something. Now, based on the definition, let's look at a quick example. So study 1, 20 new mice with tumor were randomly assigned into 2 groups, and equal of 10 mice in each group. One group of mice was given treatment A, and the other group was given just placebo. After 2 months of study, measurements of the tumor size were recorded. So this one, you can clearly see we don't have any data information before the experiment. And if you look at this term, treatment, it is considered as a design experiment. And for study 2, several studies have been conducted to analyze the relationship between vasectomies and prostate cancer. And then we can have a lot of numbers here. We found 113 cases among 20,000 men, and 70 cases per 20,000 among men who did not. So these are all values already have observed. So also we have 60%, something like that. So this study too considered as a observational study. And again, the important part is observational study can review only association, and the data are already exist. And for design experiment, so it can help establish causation, and then the data do not exist until someone does something, treatment experiment. Okay, so that's all for this chapter 1. So again, a quick review. We have section 1.1 sampling, section 1.2 types of data, and then section 1.3 design of experiments. And you can now go ahead and work on the worksheet 1 practice problems. And don't forget to upload this to Blackboard before the due date. and thank you.